Today is Saturday, September 16th, 2023, and this is the Dunkley Report. Nearly 1 in 10 of America's unionized auto workers went on strike Friday at Detroit's 3 automakers. They are seeking higher wages in an era of big profits, and as the industry makes a costly switch from gas guzzlers to electric vehicles. By striking simultaneously at General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis, the United Auto Workers Union is trying to inflict maximum pain. The strikes were limited to 3 assembly plants in Michigan, Ohio, and Missouri. Union President Shawn Fain says, "More plants will be added if the companies don't deliver better contracts." The workers are seeking 36% higher wages over 4 years. The Pentagon's Central Command has ordered interviews of roughly 24 more service members who were at the Kabul airport when suicide bombers attacked during U.S. forces' chaotic Afghanistan withdrawal, as criticism persists that the deadly assault could have been stopped. The interviews were triggered in part by assertions by at least one service member injured in the blast who said he was never interviewed about it and that he might have been able to stop the attackers. The additional interviews will likely be seized on by congressional critics, mostly Republican, as proof that the administration bungled the probe into the attack, in addition to mishandling the withdrawal. Democrats and Republicans are maneuvering to win over young voters before next year's presidential election. Vice President Kamala Harris began her cross-country college tour at Hampton University on Thursday. Former President Donald Trump visited Iowa State University last weekend. In a close campaign, getting young people off the sidelines could make the difference between victory and defeat. Biden won the majority of young voters in 2020, but his support among the same age group is lagging. Harris said every generation must fight for their rights and their freedoms, and the 2024 election is no exception. Mitt Romney's decision not to run for another Senate term has a distant echo of his father's departure from politics 5 decades ago. Both the Utah senator and his father, former Michigan Governor George Romney, were top Republican contenders for the presidency, but fell short of the White House. Both ended their careers in elected office with a sense that their party had lost its bearings, and both called for a more humane party, one that prioritizes civility and principle over resentments and score settling. In different eras, 50 years apart, George and Mitt Romney both found themselves isolated in a GOP increasingly uninterested in their brand of genteel country club conservatism. An AP NORC poll shows 76% of Americans favor allowing the federal health care program for the elderly to negotiate prices for certain prescription drugs. But the poll shows Americans are split on how President Joe Biden is handling the issue of prescription drug prices. 48% approve, making it a relative strong point for Biden, but 50% disapprove. Even among the Americans who support allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices, approval of the Democratic president's handling of the issue remains relatively tepid. 55% approve, 43% disapprove. The results show any immediate political boost Biden gets for enacting the overwhelmingly popular policy may be limited. The Texas Senate is deliberating over whether impeached Republican Attorney General Ken Paxton should be removed from office. Paxton faces 16 articles of impeachment over allegations that he abused his power as Texas's top lawyer to protect a donor who was under FBI investigation. The 3-term incumbent has denounced the impeachment as politically motivated. His future is in the hands of a Republican Senate majority that includes his wife, State Senator Angela Paxton, although she will not have a vote in the verdict. The jury of mostly GOP senators met Friday for about 8 hours in secret without emerging for a vote. Deliberations were set to resume Saturday. New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham has narrowed an order that broadly suspended the right to carry firearms in and around Albuquerque to apply only to public parks and playgrounds where children and their families gather. The governor's announcement Friday came amid public protests and legal challenges by gun rights advocates, and after a federal judge blocked part of the order because it was likely to interfere with rights to carry a gun for self-defense. U.S. District Judge David Urias on Wednesday granted a temporary restraining order to block the suspension of gun rights until another hearing is held in early October. Libyan authorities have limited access to the flooded coastal city of Derna to dig through the mud and hollowed-out buildings for the more than 10,000 people still missing and presumed dead following a disaster that has already claimed more than 11,000 lives. Authorities warned Friday that waterborne disease and explosive ordnance that shifted during the early Monday flood could claim yet more lives. In the worst affected areas of Derna, efforts to recover the dead and distribute aid have been plagued by confusion and a lack of resources. Libya's two opposing governments, long divided by civil strife and war, have struggled to respond to the disaster. Renowned Colombian painter and sculptor Fernando Botero, whose depictions of people and objects in plump, exaggerated forms became emblems of Colombian art around the world, has died. He was 91. Lina Botero told the Colombian radio station Caracol that her father died Friday morning in Monaco of pneumonia complications. Botero depicted politicians, animals, saints, and scenes from his childhood in an inflated and colorful form that was instantly recognizable. During his lifetime, the artist attained global fame and influence, despite his humble origins, and his paintings were exhibited around the world, while his imposing bronze sculptures can be found in the parks and avenues of many European and Latin American capitals. European regulators have slapped TikTok with a $368 million fine for failing to protect children's privacy. It's the first time that the popular short video sharing app has been punished for breaching Europe's strict data privacy rules. Ireland's Data Protection Commission said Friday that it's fining TikTok and reprimanding the platform for the violations that occurred in the second half of 2020. TikTok said in a statement that it disagrees with the decision, particularly the level of the fine imposed. The company pointed out that the Irish watchdog's criticisms focused on features and settings dating back 3 years. Today's news was reported by the Associated Press. This has been the World News for Saturday, September 16th, 2023. Thanks again for joining us at The Dunkley Report.